Morning, everybody. It's Christopher Taylor with Sovereign Harmony here on Sunday morning, April 13th. We're going to go over the week ahead, and it's quite a turning of the page kind of a week this week for sure. We just had a full moon just hours ago, really, just yesterday evening, Saturday evening, and 40 minutes after that, Venus, the ruler of Libra, which is where the full moon was, that went direct. So here we are. I've been talking about it for a few weeks. We're now on the other side of this eclipse season, okay? And both now Venus and Mercury, which were retrograde for a good amount of the last several weeks to a couple months, are now both direct. And so we're over this phase of reviewing on a mental and on a heart level. Mental being Mercury, Venus being the heart level, okay? And so this full moon, pretty intense, really. Squaring Mars in Cancer and involving Chiron with the Sun in Aries on the other side of the moon. Definitely a challenging time to face any kind of personal wounding and to step aside and give a bigger picture look at it from other people's point of view. And looking at things that we doubt about ourselves, because that Mars-Chiron square that's been with us for several months had a lot to do with that angsty energy and that sort of doubts about, what we're capable of, what we can achieve. And it's based a lot about the past and past things we might have held on to that weren't even true then, or maybe were, but certainly aren't true now. And so this full moon really illuminated this opportunity to just kind of step into situations where we would assume our wounds would hold us back and then just kind of plow through them. And so we're still in this energy. Leading up to the past several days, leading up to the next several days to a couple of weeks, think of situations where you might otherwise shy away from or just say, oof, that would hurt if I even did that or put myself in that position, and then just kind of face it and plow through it. That's really what this has to do with, and seeing how other people respond to that and realizing that, wow, we were capable of that the whole time. We doubted ourselves, but other people certainly saw us as capable, right? That's kind of what this energy is about. That's that Libra. It's that the other point of view, and seeing ourselves from the other point of view, and how potentially anything negative we think of ourselves or limit ourselves with, being able to kind of push through that to the other side. Okay, and this full moon is also part of a yod. The yod is when there's a point on one side of the zodiac, and then there's a sextile on the opposite side. So the midpoint of this kind of full moon here, which is the sun and moon, with Chiron as well, on either side of the sun Chiron conjunction, we have Uranus and Taurus and Saturn and Pisces. So that sextile between Saturn and Pisces, Uranus and Taurus, is forming a yod to the moon in Libra. And that sextile is a long-term thing that goes through early next year. And again, that has to do with gradual but permanent change that we're committing to. And so this full moon has a lot to do with that. We're committing to a permanent change in terms of our belief about ourselves and what we're capable of. Okay? And our sense of limits when it comes to our wounding. So the idea that we're not limited by that wound. That wound isn't our wall that we can't go beyond anymore. And so we're committing to that in the long term. Doesn't mean it's going to be an overnight change. But by the time we get to the end of that period, early next year, 2026, if we commit to it, then we can be there. We can be on the other side. And looking at it as, wow, I can't believe I let that hold me back this whole time. Things like that. Okay, so that's part of this too. And with Venus turning direct, Venus the ruler of Libra, it turned direct with Saturn essentially. Okay, with Mercury, with the moon's north node, all in late Pisces. So it's kind of part of that yod as well. Okay, and there's a sense of, again, committing to an ending of an era and drawing the line and saying this is the end so that we can open to that new beginning. Because again, a lot of this Mercury-Venus retrograde back into Pisces has been to investigate and go through some of that old stuff that needs to be dropped away so that when we move into the Aries season with Mercury and Venus, that we can head forward, okay? And, Neptune is in Aries, 0 degrees Aries right now. Like we said, that's a big event. And now, as we move through this week, in fact, Mercury is going to enter Aries and join Neptune. But before we get to that, with Venus turning direct here last night, this opens up a window of several weeks till May 4th. So from April 12th to May 4th, all planets are direct. When all planets are direct, it really is a time when things head forward. And since we've been in such a retrograde-y, eclipsy kind of season, it's time for it. It really is time for it. And so that window's opening. And with that window, again, from April 12th to May 4th, within that, from mid-April, starting this week till the end of April, Saturn is joining the moon's north node in Pisces. If you remember, back in late January to late February, we had Neptune conjunct the moon's north node in Pisces. Okay, so that set the stage. That was more about like possibilities and healing, etc. And now with Saturn there, there's a sense again of that. The key word here is commitment. Commitment to leaving certain things behind, committing to our highest ideals for the future that don't require, or have anything to do with anything in the past that has held us back. So there's an open window for things to go forward, as there is this commitment to leave the past behind and align with the future. So lots of the energy is really tuning up here in the next several weeks. Okay. So back to that Mercury. So Mercury on Tuesday will enter Aries. Wednesday, it will join Neptune and have that exact conjunction. And so Mercury made a couple conjunctions with Neptune during this retrograde cycle, but they were both when Neptune was in Pisces. Okay, so that again had to do with, on a mental level, what are those thoughts that we need to leave behind? How do they limit us? How we see the world, how we see ourselves. How can we leave certain things behind? Because now with Mercury entering Aries, it's like, all right, the new dawn is here on a mental level. Joining Neptune, it's like, what are the possibilities of my, full embodiment here? Not that it's going to happen overnight, but it's kind of envisioning the possibilities of what that could look like if we actually include all of our soul level energy in this earthly life. What could that be? So great time for imagination, for where we can go from here with Mercury joining Neptune in Aries. Then later in the week, Thursday, Mars will enter Leo. Okay, so Mars is still like in its retrograde shadow. Okay, it went retrograde in Leo December 6th, went direct in Cancer February 23rd. So it's been direct since February 23rd, but in Cancer. Cancer is not an easy energy for Mars to express. Leo, on the other hand, Mars can express itself in Leo with confidence. So it's action with confidence. Okay, and so with Mars entering Leo on Thursday, and then subsequently trining Neptune in Aries a couple days later on Saturday, this kind of adds to the mental level of Mercury conjunct Neptune in Aries and thinking about the possibilities. And then you're adding Mars there in a trine, and it's saying, oh, here's where we can go. And it's the idea of being more confident, since we've had to go back, process the past and those past things that have held us back. And now we're ready to really move forward. And we're ready to move forward in a time when all the planets are direct. Okay, so the next several weeks, if we've had things on the back burner, if we've been keeping things at bay, procrastinating in any way, we might feel, and there's no reason to force it. If you don't feel it yet, don't do anything, right? But we may find that we're feeling like it's go time, right? It's go time. So I'll leave it there. So it's a turning of the page kind of week, like I said before. And, we've been through a lot the last few weeks to a couple of months. It went really deep. This full moon is really kind of like the grand finale of like, wow, look at, I assumed I would be seen this way and judged this way. And it's like, if we just face those fears and drive through it, we might find out like people have always seen us as capable. People, have always seen us as having the ability, and they're not going to react to us in the way that we assumed. And that's very freeing. Okay. But take it there. Again, it's Christopher Taylor with Sovereign Harmony. Have a great week. Do chime in if you have any questions. If you're interested in a personal reading with these energies and where they are, we can do that too. But until next week, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.